Welcome to Middle Class Matters, Business News in English from Dr CMA Alagesan. Securities Exchange Board of India's confirmatory order on Subash Chandra, the chairman, Punit Goenka, the MD of Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited. Next part continues. 41.2.3.13. Interestingly, it is noted that the impinged fund transfer of INR 41.16 crore was done on October 9, 2019. Prior to receipt of the said funds from Z Limited, Quirus Communications Limited had only INR 3 lakh in its HDFC bank account. Post receipt of fund, within 2 days, it transferred INR 40 crore to Datalink Multi Trading Private Limited, which itself had INR 96,836 in its IDBI bank account. Datalink Multi Trading Private Limited further transfers rupees INR 23 crore to other conduit entities the same day, to ultimately to reach one of the promoters of Z Limited that transferred INR 23 crore to SL Business Excellence Services Private Limited, one of the associate entities. What is exactly the same amount owned by it to Z Limited? 41.2.3.14. The aforesaid discussion shows that though Quirus Communications Private Limited has submitted some documents, but the same does not corroborate the submission of entity number 2, especially in the light of subsequent fund transfers and account balance of the recipients. Hence, currently I am not inclined to accept the agreement as submitted by entity number 2. 41.2.3.15. With respect to Z Akash News Private Limited, it is noted that Z Akash News Private Limited is a wholly owned subsidiary of another listed company of SL Group, that is Z Media Corporation Limited, which is owned by the same promoter family. The aforesaid, when seen along with the pattern which shows that the flow of funds from Z Akash News Private Limited has mirrored the fund transfers in other 5 instances in terms of time taken for fund transfers across layers of companies and time taken to complete the entire fund transaction on a preponderance of probability basis, prima facie cannot be a coincidence. Therefore, at this stage, the submission of the entity cannot be accepted on its face value. 41.2.3.16. Similarly, the submission of entity number 2 that does not have access to the records of Dish Infra Services Private Limited and hence cannot comment on the fund transfer done by it, cannot be accepted at this stage, as the flow of fund from the said entity has also followed the same pattern as has been observed in respect of the other fund flows noticed in the matter. In the given facts and circumstances of the matter, considering the commonality in the fund flow pattern with the other 5 instances as discussed in the interim order, involvement of common conduit entities, including the involvement of Charu Enterprises LLP, which is prima facie controlled by the entities, I am unable to accept the submission of entity number 2 at this stage. 41.3. Entity number 2 has submitted that payment of Z Limited has been made for valuable consideration and subsequent utilization of funds by entities to repay does not constitute diversion of funds. In this regard, I have already noted in preceding paragraphs that though entity number 2 has made certain submissions regarding the genuineness of the fund transactions, however, it does not demonstrate the complete chain of events or provide the whole information. Further, there have been instances which shows that Z Limited had transferred funds to entities that already owed funds to it. Subsequently, that particular entity further transferred money to other promoter companies instead of paying back to Z Limited. Thus, neither the action of Z Limited nor the actions of the related parties to whom Z Limited had transferred funds makes any rational sense and thus cannot be accepted as genuine. Moreover, the digital footprint of the subsequent utilization of the funds by the other parties shows that the funds, after passing through multiple layers, have prima facie reached one of the promoter companies of Z Limited to be finally landing in the bank account of Z Limited after passing one last time through the associate entities' bank accounts. Thus, prima facie, the fund transfer shows that the funds received by Z Limited from the associate entities actually belong to Z Limited and or other listed entities and subsidiaries belonging to the listed companies of SL Group and not to those associate entities. However, the fixed deposit of INR 200 crore of Z Limited was liquidated by Yes Bank Limited towards the dues of the associate entities. The same prima facie constitutes diversion of funds and a loss to Z Limited and other listed entities and subsidiaries belonging to SL Group. 41.4. With respect to entity number 2, submission that he is not in control of day-to-day transactions of the related parties, I note that in the instant matter, prima facie, a scheme was employed to wipe off the debt of the 7 associate entities against the fixed deposit of INR 200 crore of Z Limited. It is an admitted fact that the constituent entities and the 7 associate entities are part of SL Group, of which the entities along with the family members are an integral part. As already discussed, the submissions of entity 2 in the given facts and circumstances of the case fall short of explaining the genuineness of the initial transaction executed by Z Limited or subsidiaries belonging to SL Group. Moreover, the subsequent fund transactions of the related parties have several red flags as discussed above. 41.5. Then there is involvement of other companies belonging to SL Group in the fund transactions, namely Khubsurat Infra Private Limited, Spirit Infra Power and Multi Ventures Private Limited, Pan India Infra Projects Private Limited, Chari Enterprises LLP, etc. There are also certain set of constituent entities which are common across fund transactions. Therefore, it can be seen prima facie that in the scheme which was employed to benefit the 7 associate entities and ultimately the entities number 1 and 2 who are integral part of the SL Group, various SL Group companies have come together to materialize the scheme, be it the source of companies or the initial recipients of the funds or the companies who are involved just prior to final transfer to Z Limited. Thus, prima facie, various companies of SL Group had their part to play in this scheme, and it would be very simplistic way of looking at various circumstances surrounding the fund transfers, even if for a moment one were to accept the entity number 2 was not in charge of day-to-day affairs of the related companies of Z Limited. 41.6. Similarly, the submission of entity number 2 that he cannot be asked to explain the transactions beyond the first instance and those with whom he is not connected is devoid of merit on the following grounds. As noted above, the explanation furnished by entity number 2 for the first transaction is not satisfactory in the given facts and circumstances of the case. Further, it would be incorrect to state that he is not connected with the subsequent companies that are involved in the fund transfers. I have noted in preceding paragraphs that not only one of the promoter of Z Limited, Spirit Infra Power and Multi Ventures Private Limited was involved in almost all the transactions, but also there were other companies, entities belonging to SL Group which were involved in the fund transfers at one stage or the other, namely Khubsurat Infra Private Limited, Pan India Infra Projects Private Limited, Chari Enterprises LLP, Z Akash News Private Limited, and Dish Infra Services Private Limited. It is one thing to say that he is not on the board of the management of such companies, and it is completely other thing to say that he is not connected with the said companies. One of the features of the scheme was to mask the first fund transfers. To that effect, various companies belonging to SL Group and a set of common conduit played their part by helping in layering the transactions. Thus, when seen holistically, each company knew what it was doing, as evidenced from their low bank balance and immediate transfer of funds. As observed in interior model, the prima facie scheme was employed for the benefit of 7 associate entities, and through them entities number 1 and 2 benefited. Further, on a preponderance of probability basis, it is difficult to attribute the commonality in flow of funds across 6 different chains and the involvement of companies and or body corporates connected with the entities. Therefore, at this stage, I am not inclined to give benefit of doubt to entity number 2 that he was not aware of the scheme just because he was not on the board of the said companies and or body corporates. 41.7 With respect to exercise of control by entity number 2, with respect to exercise of control by entity number 2 on the companies or body corporates which are part of the layered transactions, I note that Charu Enterprises LLP and Spirit Infra Power and Multi Ventures Private Limited were the entities which had directly transferred money to the associate entities prior to the later transferring it to Z Limited. In all the instances that were identified in the interior model, except one instance where it was indirectly done by Spirit Infra Power and Multi Ventures Private Limited, it has already been noted in the preceding paragraphs that Ms. Sushila Devi Goenka, along with her son Mr. Punit Goenka, controls 89% partnership interest in Charu Enterprises LLP. It is seen from the publicly available documents that Mr. Ashok Balwantri Sangvi is a professional director in Psychotra Media Services Private Limited, promoter entity of Z Limited from January 25, 2019 onwards, as also the designated partner in Charu Enterprises LLP. Being the professional director in the promoter entity, Mr. Ashok Singhvi is required to report to the promoter, Mr. Punit Goenka. Further, he is also a director or partner in the following companies that are identified as part of the SL group as mentioned in the table below. Company name, date of appointment, cessation date and designation. Asian Satellite Broadcast Private Limited, 24/9/2013 to 16/2/2016, Director Professional. Charu Enterprises LLP from 1st April 2015, Designated Partner. Psychoter Media Services Private Limited, 25th January 2019, Director Professional. SL Corporate LLP, 26th March 2018, Designated Partner. SL Corporate Resources Private Limited, 24th September 2013 to 24/4/2023, Director Professional. SL Finance Capsters Advisory Limited, 23rd June 2008 to 2/4/2014, Director. SL Housing and Infrastructure Development Private Limited, 14th December 2015 to 14th February 2018, Director Professional. Living Entertainment Enterprises Private Limited, 12th November 2019 to date, Director Professional. New Media Broadcasting Private Limited, 16th May 2018, Director Professional. Pan India Network Infra West Limited, 25th April 2005 to 16 March 2009, Director. Pan India Network Limited, 17th March 2009 to till date, Director Independent. Spirit Infra Power Multi Ventures Private Limited, 20th June 2012 to 24/9/2013, Additional Director Professional. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Please share to your friends and relatives to to share the information on how the corporates function, how our money will be safe. You can understand. Please send it to as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.